The boys are back with more crazy commentary and barmy banter. We talk accessibility in gaming. With the release of 3 major games with vastly different approaches to inclusive gaming, is there any excuse for not making games accessible now? In another patented Grumpy Gits interview, that's right, we patented them, we talk to Beverley Walters from the TES SEND Show, an annual SEND education conference for professionals and parents and carers alike. Spoiler alert, Duncan, Adam and Martin will all be speaking at the event. We also look at Ask, Don't Assume, the new disability campaign from the UK government. We ask, is this brilliant or sadly falling short? All this in our usual collection of mayhem and madness. We'll see you next Tuesday and plenty of banter and buffoonery. So grab a drink, find a quiet spot and enter the madcap world of the Grumpy Gits. And remember, don't be grumpy alone.
Good morning, good afternoon and good evening wherever in the world you happen to be watching this, and welcome to another spectacular episode of the Grumpy Gits. I, as always, am your host, Adam Pearson, leading you by the hand through this cavalcade of chaos and carnage, but I am not alone. Oh, no, no, no. I am joined, as ever, by my 3 favourite people in the world, unless you're counting the rest of the world. Up first, the moan from Stone, who likes to bone, Chris Lee Smith. How's it going?
It's going good, mate. It's going good. I'm coming down with something. So, but I don't know whether it was Saturday night at DEFA or the aftermath, or it's just, I don't know, that flu that's going round. But yeah, apart from that, I'm doing good.
Excellent, and it's always a pleasure to see you, good sir. And we'll get on to DEFA later on in the show. Up next, did he enjoy DEFA? Definitely. Duncan Casburn, what's crack-a-lackin', my friend?
I think I've got this. I knew I shouldn't have spent the night with Chris because I'm coming down with the same flu. So, you know. Okay,
Was I conscious for this? Or
just to be clear, guys, sucking each other off definitely increases your risk of having the same disease. Right?
There we go.
I've heard it's good for the throat.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, roll hypno. And moving on, before we get in even more trouble than I'm assuming we're already in, I wrote down something really funny. We went out drinking, I forgot it. Martin's here. How you doing? How you doing, Martin?
You know what? It's all right, Adam, because I'm going to be honest, like those 2 intros that you done for Duncan and Christy, they're not your strongest, pal. I'm going to be honest.
Hey, honestly, I've written some amazing stuff in the car on the way to DEFA. Duncan can vouch for it. It was great. And now I don't remember a single bloody word of it.
Oh, don't worry, mate. Actually, I'm fine, thanks. I'm not coming down with something because I didn't spend the night, with either of you, really. I was just quite happy spending the night on my own. But I do feel pretty much like a grumpy git today, and I have felt like a grumpy git since I left the DEFA. I just can't handle it anymore. I don't have the sauce to handle.
Oh, are you getting old? Are you getting old, Martin?
Mate, I'm telling you, listen, I'm happy about it, to be honest. I'm happy about it. It's been an emotional couple of days. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was saying to you before how bad it's been, and like, everything seems like a big deal at the minute. Now, when you've got that really, really bad hangover and you're really emotional and you're irritable and everything gets to you.
So I've only ever had one hangover and I was 7.
Mate, that is such a gift in life, that.
you know what the trick is? Stick to one drink, and that's it.
The trick is to spend the night together.
I had that beer at the start, which I realised quickly was a mistake. And then we moved on to like Jack and Coke. But I don't normally
Duncan.
drink.
That was you. You did that, Jack. And do you know what he said? Do you know what he said? Right? He said, what do you want to drink? And I was like, Adam was next to me at the time. He already had a beer, and I was like, and you had went away, Chris. I don't know where you had, probably socialising as per usual, making pals. And like, he went, I'll get these drinks, Martin. I was like, all right, I'll have what you're having then, Duncan. He went, a triple. And then, because I'm obviously height challenged with the wheelchair, like bent down. And I was just like, And that was it. That was it. It all went fucking downhill from there, and it's not stopped.
I do remember Adam drinking sambucas.
He was having Jaegers. He didn't have a Sambuca.
No, I did have a
sambuca
Sambuca.
because
Oh,
I
okay.
bought him one.
Yeah, because Emmy was like, shut! I hate Sambuca. It's like the worst thing ever made.
So you had Sambuca.
See, I'm like that with tequila. I can't even smell tequila, man. And
Oh,
it'll
that's
set me
rough.
off.
Also, randos kept buying me drinks in the bee's knees because I'd been on the telly that night.
Yes,
I'm
my
like,
son sent me the photo. He's like, Adam's on telly.
Was Crime Watch on that night?
it was Antiques Road Trip, and you know it.
No, genuinely, what was it?
It was Celebrity Antiques Road Trip.
Sorry, did you do celebrity? Congratulations, pal. Did you win?
No.
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it because every time he goes on a celebrity thing, he loses. I fucking knew it.
I won Mastermind, and I hold on to that very, very dearly.
You've needed to, because every other fucking thing you've done.
Anyway, let's move on to our regularly reoccurring opening highlight segment of the show. See you next Tuesday. Chris Lee Smith, what do you have for us?
Duncan was right. What's the worst thing you've done when you were drunk? Let's start with Duncan.
You already know this story from me.
Do I?
Well, yeah, I painted a toilet with my vomit, went back into the cinema, watched the...
What? That was when you were drunk? I thought you had the flu.
I had the flu. I had a bottle of JD and a KFC. It was just a really bad combination. And the poor guy who had to clean up the second lot got fired because the manager didn't believe that.
Yeah, we've had this one
cleaned the
before.
toilets.
I know. I didn't realise he was drunk though. So you had the flu. You'd eaten KFC and you'd had a bottle of JD.
I went out and I got really, really drunk. And I was walking home from my house in Croydon. I've done it before. And all my mates like, aren't you worried about the homeless people that might want you? I'm like, they all know me. It's fine. They all like me. And there's a Barbers, and I don't like the owner. And it's called Boss Barbers. And they use the same lettering as Hugo Boss. And I'm quite drunk. So I call the legal department of Hugo Boss in America and let them know. And within a week it had gone.
Well, that's pretty evil. I
remember
was expecting embarrassing, but that we've gone Dr. Evil here.
That coming there, that was a punchline I never really anticipated.
No, don't mess with Adam.
I also once went into McDonald's and ordered 17 hash browns and ate them all on the tram home.
Oh, Adam, that was making me feel
and then was violently ill.
Yeah. So obviously it was the hash browns.
There's a cinema somewhere where Duncan went that'd go, oh, glad I'm not that guy.
I think the hash browns were the catalyst. They probably sped up the process. Martin, what have you got for us?
I've got a good one for you, actually. Like, have any of you ever been to a foam party before?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you
A
know
what party?
A foam party?
I've been to a popcorn party as well. That was quite cool.
Yeah, was it popping? When I gave up wheelchair basketball, me and two of my wheelchair pals, Davey and Rab, decided to go to Gran Canaria because we thought, well, we're not playing basketball anymore. So we booked it on Teletext holidays on the Friday and then it flew out on the Saturday. This is the type of holiday I'm talking about, right? 10 days, all inclusive, 3 guys in wheelchairs, each had, it was like the points of evolution where somebody was minimal disabled, middle disabled, pretty disabled. That was how the 3 of us would describe. Anyway, one of the craziest things was we decided to go up an escalator. What we used to do is we used to hold onto the side of the conveyor belts, put our front wheels on one step and the back wheels on the other and hold on. It's pretty intense stuff. You need decent core to do it. Somebody pressed the emergency stop button when we were halfway up. So I'm at the back. Rab, who's sort of middle disabled person's at the middle, and then Davey's at the front because he had the most severe disability. It made sense, more support. But his arms started to go like this. It was like, shit, man, we're going to fall. So I ended up having to get off my chair because I can walk a little bit, let my wheelchair fall all the way down, and then do a jump over both boys, pick Davey up on my shoulder, help Rab get his chair, get Rab over me, and this is how the sequence went. And do you know what was so weird about it? No one helped us People just took pictures.
Ask, don't shoot.
I think it might not be the craziest thing that I've done because I've already told you that, right? But the craziest experience by far, right? And I'll tell you why, is because see, if I wasn't drunk, there's no way I would have done it. I would have shit my pants and would have screamed like a 12-year-old boy.
Felt like a superhero, did you?
I'm telling you.
You got that cape on?
When we got to the top, like Davey was absolutely bursting with energy because he's obviously not done anything. And I was just laid absolutely flat out, like the sun was coming up. It took us like 45 minutes. I was just laid like completely flat out, like could not move for 45 minutes. I thought we were going to die.
Did someone get your wheelchair?
Well, I think eventually what had happened is that it's like a really busy, bustly place, so it's not like people are like clubbing, they're all drunk, they're all fucked. So no one's giving a shit about anybody. It's just carnage. It's nuts. You know, somebody eventually picked up my chair, but I can't quite remember the vague details of like conversations, what happened. My chair was damaged, I know that for a fact. I had a buckled wheel for about 6 months after it. So yeah, that is a drunk experience. I don't know if it's the craziest experience, but it's definitely like it's up there. But
I really like that.
yeah. And I can confirm it. If you ever need it to be confirmed, I'll all I need to do is say phone them up on the show and go, tell us about the escalator story, anybody that was there, and literally put it up to the microphone, and they will immediately be like,
I think they're going to say Martin passed out, fell
yeah.
out. And he came up with this story in his head. He had a dream that he saved us.
What is the worst character trait of each of us?
Oh God,
your perspective, because Chris he's a fucking puppet master, and he loves to sit back, play these games. He came to me at the end of the Deafer night, and he goes, "You've been having triples?" I'm like, "No, I've been ordering doubles." He goes, "Yeah, but I keep ordering them and then ordering a shot on the side and dumping it in."
Yeah, that does sum up Chris, actually.
It really does. He's like this evil genius. He belongs in a Disney movie.
I've openly admitted this, by the way. This isn't people coming up with it. I've turned around and said, I hate this about me. I look around and I look for the weakest spots of people, and then subconsciously I act on it.
I always imagine your personal perspective, you know, the rose-colored glasses. I see you like the Terminator. You know that bit when it goes on the other side and it just analyzes everything for weak points. That's Chris's standard vision.
Yeah, it's not a trait that I like. It's not. It's
but
subconsciously.
He stands back with this smug look on his face, like, I know what's going on.
Just press play after all my work and watch it all unfold.
Martin's worst trait is he loves telling really embarrassing stories about himself and then pretending that he's not loving the attention.
That is quite a bad trait of mine, to be honest. I don't think it's about the attention so much. I think I love to tell stories, and I'm like an oversharer.
I think it's a Scottish thing.
Yeah.
Everyone I know who's Scottish has this thing, and they just start telling these random stories that anywhere else in the world would be.
Yeah, we're very much a race where we act first and think later.
Yeah.
That's like, trust me, mate, I know it's a bad trait. I know this. The amount of times I've got myself in fucking shit. But fuck it, I'll just say it, and then I say it. Whether it's good or bad, see, I tell you stories to make you laugh, but it goes the other way. Where if I need to be honest with somebody, if I want to tell somebody what I think about them, that also comes into play sometimes. So I get myself into bother. Do you know what I mean? I genuinely do.
Martin's worst character trait is he's too honest. It was. I did find this about Martin. You tell a really embarrassing story, right? And then it would be, oh, stop now, stop. And then it'd stop. And then he'd tell another embarrassing story about himself, and then it would carry on.
It's like a domino effect. All of them just fall down.
The story's like, okay, stop. I'm telling the story. Okay, move on. We'd all move on, and he'd find someone new and start telling them the same story.
That kept happening at Expo because I didn't finish the story when we were doing the podcast.
We just everybody kept coming up to me and going, story.
People kept coming up to me and going, "Oh, what was that thing about licking somebody's fingers? What was that?" And like that, I don't even know these people. They kept coming up to me and asking me. It's not a good icebreaker, is it? But hey, you're absolutely right. By the way, I think that is the honesty thing gets me in bother.
I do enjoy it. To be fair, right. Adam, what's Adam's?
How do you put it? He's got this way. It's a good quality that sucks if you're in the firing line of it. He's got a remarkable aptitude for research, and he'll pull things out from your past that you don't know anybody else even fucking knows. And suddenly he's like, Well, you did this, didn't you? And you're like, oh, hang on. He pulls them out in intros. Like, how did you know that about me? It scares me. I swear he dated someone in the CIA or something because he's got access to stuff no one else has.
Maybe he's in the CIA.
Perfect front, isn't it?
Perfect front, mate. I wouldn't actually be surprised if Adam was in the CIA. See, I'd be genuine if somebody came up to me and said he's been an operative for about 10 years. I'd be like, yeah, I can see this.
I agreed with you up until the point I looked at Adam and he's smirking because he's fucking loving it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, yeah, that's a good point. That is, that's a conspiracy theory, but it's a good point. And then you look at Adam and then he's just got this giant smile on his face.
Yeah,
like, fucking not in the CIA.
So my default with Adam is that anything gets said to him in front of him or within his vicinity, he's already thinking filth or the most obscene joke in his head, diluting everything down to a socially acceptable manner. And even when whatever comes through his mind that goes out of his mouth, it still isn't socially acceptable. In my head, I think, where did you start? Where did you come from?
Adam is preparing for war constantly. Whenever we're talking, he's taking snippets every time. You're drunk, you're telling the story, that's getting filed. You fucking piss him off, it's coming out. He's prepared for war. That's what he's a fucking warmonger. That's what he is.
It's a true story, isn't it?
God of war. Yeah. He's fucking Kratos.
And a person, war machine.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't done Duncan yet, us three.
Man, there's so many, Duncan. I'm trying to pick one out. I feel like you are very, very, what do you call it? Well, see, because I'm very honest and I pick a side, right? So I'll pick, I either like something or I don't, right? And I'll be, get fucked, you're an idiot, or you're right. And how my brain works. But you've got this ability to go like, no, Martin, right? And see when I'm pissed off, I don't want that, right? I want somebody to agree with everything that I say, right? I don't want you to tell me the other side and how they might.
I don't want to calm down, for fuck's sake. Stop fucking trying to calm me down.
I don't want them to be right in any way or have any feelings or to be made to feel like they matter. So I feel like you're just too fucking nice.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think at times you can be unconfident when it's not warranted.
It's a bit hard as well when you've got us three fuckwits standing next to you as well, thinking that we're all fucking superheroes.
Well, the reality is I'm just trying to beat you to the punch.
Yeah. Mate, you're winning. You're absolutely winning.
Adam, what have you got for Duncan?
I got nothing. Duncan's my favourite. Great driver, great road buddy, great drinking buddy. I like Duncan.
He's saying that because he knows he's my son's favourite.
Duncan might be the nicest man in the world, right? But he does not give a fuck about people's feelings when he plays music in the car, obviously. Because one of the first things that Farah said to me when she came and she was like, I had to listen to rock music all the way from London to Burnley. And like, Farah's a lovely person. Right?
That would take a lot.
It takes a lot for her to like
the whole way. We played her shitty rapper friend's song.
One song?
You requested it.
I think there's things that Duncan is definitely uncompromising on, right? If Fallen State could be played for a whole fucking 8-hour journey, we'll do it.
We played Green Day, we played Shinedown, we played Alter Bridge. It was a bloody great car journey, apart from the weather.
The other side of it is Farah was pretty much unconscious for both parts of the journey there and back.
I don't think she was unconscious, but she just shut down, like just shutting down.
I think mentally she just turned off. That was it. Just knocked unconscious by rock. So it was done.
If you were a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, what dinosaur would you have as your Zord?
Oh,
T-Rex.
I can see Chris as a T-Rex. Bad-tempered and arms too short so he can't masturbate.
Yeah, and can only see sideways. Dinosaurs
vision.
They don't have that vision.
I don't have that vision. I was questioning whether T-Rexes can see out the side of their fucking head. What the fuck's that about?
See what I mean? That's why he's a T-Rex. He's absolutely bob on. Like, you say one thing, man, and he's absolutely on it.
I would have fucking booted you down that escalator.
I feel like
Right, what dinosaurs are we choosing?
I'm going to choose a pterodactyl.
Not a dinosaur.
Why is it not a dinosaur?
It's a bird. It's technically not a dinosaur.
Technically, if we're going to get really scientific, all dinosaurs are derived from birds.
I don't know why you're so.
Derived from dinosaurs.
Your daughter's friends are so right. I don't know why you're so grumpy at the moment, Martin.
Because I pick a dinosaur and you're telling me that it's not a dinosaur, it's a dinosaur.
It isn't a dinosaur.
Can we, can we get a fact check on this?
Because they flew and their front limbs stretched out to the sides, they are not dinosaurs. Instead, they are a distant dinosaur cousin.
Can we get a fact check on the fact check?
I think
Pterosaurs lived from the late Triassic period to the end of the Cretaceous period when they went extinct, along with actual dinosaurs.
So they lived at the same time, in the same era, but because they flew, they're not dinosaurs. It's pretty much
But
the same.
that paper's done by Dr. Pearson. At the end. Oh, I think that's a dinosaur, isn't it, Adam?
It's called, I don't know if it's a Dilophosaurus or a Dilophosaurus. But,
Are you just picking a random dinosaur?
Because I remember that one with the guy with the glasses in Jurassic Park 1. Do you remember when he runs and it spits on his face?
Collar. Yeah. That's a dinosaur.
That's kind of a small dinosaur to pick for a Power Ranger, though, isn't it?
Who says that size matters?
All right, Duncan, you're up. What dinosaur are you going for?
I think probably a Triceratops, because they're sort of big and imposing.
Low center of gravity.
Get close to them, yeah, exactly. And when you get close to them, they're actually generally quite nice.
And I'm going to go with a Brachiosaurus, just because it's huge.
Because you're overcompensating again.
One day there'll be an episode where we don't talk about the penis. This was not it.
There's only one person that brings it up, to be fair. Name begins with A.
My question is, we were at the DEFA ball on, is it Saturday we went? Yeah, it was Saturday. And I was thinking about Jim, actually, and he's a real kind of life hero, isn't he?
Yes.
Jim, and I think that made me think. We didn't get a lot of chance to speak to him. Well, I didn't. I was too busy drinking triple Jack Daniels at the time. But my question to you is, who is your hero?
Oh, that's a really good question.
That is a good question.
I'm going to have to say Jim. I am, because I do like to help people, and this was even before Jim. I'd go to like the homeless shelter and I'd help down there, and there was loads of stuff like that I did in Weston. But Jim, when I first met him, found out what he did, he'd just taken it to a level that I'd never even conceive. And every time you speak to him, that he doesn't change. It's just who he is. There's no act. There's nothing on camera or speaking to him in person or even having a meeting with him. His personality is the same, and he's always looking to help those less fortunate. So genuinely, Jim, by a long shot.
I think you'd be surprised by my answers previously from before knowing Jim. I've always really respected, and I'm going to get some hate for this, I know, but I've always really respected Jamie Oliver. He can be a bit of a twat and he can be a bit annoying, but when it came to actually doing something to change things for what he knew was going to be better for people, he put his own money, his own business on the line to make it happen.
Yeah.
Specifically the 15 restaurants, especially for me with that sort of, this is what cooking did for me and this is what I'm going to try and pay forward.
My hero's my mum, Mummy P.
Tell us why.
Because I would be a shell of the man I am if it wasn't for her. She raised me right and was like, yeah, you're disabled, get on with it, put your head down, move on. You can't spend your whole life moaning on Twitter or in a column in a newspaper or wherever other people moan nowadays. Just crack on, find out what you want, go out there and get it, and I'll be right behind you the whole way. Unless what you want is drugs, then you're on your own.
I'm going to change my answer to Adam's mum.
I change my answer. Adam's mum actually is my hero.
You stay away from my mum.
Adam's mum has got to go.
Oh, mate, no. I like your mum, she doesn't. And that song has aged like a fine murder. Could you imagine if that song was called Stacey's Dad?
Yeah, bit weird.
If you can't, you see, this could be your felony. Me and Chris all know a lot about this. I don't know how much of gamers you are, Martin and Duncan, but there have been 3 games that have come out recently, or 2 that have come out, one that's due to come out, that are all at different levels of accessibility. Because games now have got accessibility features quite like planned in. to gamers who may be hard of hearing or partially sighted or have other needs that need to be facilitated. The new Bethesda game, Starfield, came out. It's been in development for years, and it came even in like the run up to launch. They were asked about it, and the silence was deafening. And then it came out, nothing, absolutely nothing. Chris, you played it. Are the rumors true? Is there zero accessibility?
It's abysmal, the effort that's been put in. Also, the handling of it has been abysmal. If Bethesda had come out and said, look, yes, we know we're dreadfully short on accessibility, but we're working on it, then, there's a little bit of grace there. We want you to play our game, okay? We're going to work on it. But the fact is that they said nothing before, they've said nothing while it's been out, and they've said nothing after. It has been ridiculously bad and handled so poorly. And what it's also instigated is ableism online, because obviously the disabled community, they've kind of gone on and asked over Twitter, and the abuse they've got off other gamers, sucks to be you, glad I'm not blind. The fact that it's led to that, it just leaves a really fucking bitter taste in your mouth.
Expecting everyone to get everything right all the time, I think, is unfair and unreasonable. Yep. And I think there's a huge difference between accountability and a pile on and a witch hunt. And if this had been a small indie who this was their first game and they were really trying, if this had been something like Unfinished Swan or Untitled Goose Game, I'd be like, yeah, rock and roll. Like, if you can patch something in, great. If not, nah. This is Bethesda. They are huge. Like, other than Rockstar, they're the biggest in the game in terms of massive open world. And I don't know how much it has to do with the takeover by Microsoft, because that's the big thing that's happened to them.
Microsoft are the ones who are pushing forward the things like the accessible gaming pads and stuff like that. They seem to be doing a lot in there. I wonder if these things are a lot like movies sometimes, where the studio kind of stands back and lets them get on with it.
That's exactly right. That's what happened is when Bethesda, this is from Chad, who got the story. Basically what happened is that Bethesda wanted to retain their kind of freedom. So they and Microsoft agreed. This is the question I raised because I didn't know before, is where the fuck were Microsoft in all this? They're screaming from the mountaintops about accessibility and all this. And then Bethesda come out with a game under the banner of Microsoft as well. And there's nothing. Yeah, apparently when the deal was signed, it was kind of, we still want our freedom. So if you want the deal, we're still taking the reins and doing what we want.
These big gaming companies, I mean, I'm not a massive gamer, I'm just going to disclose that right away, like, because of my news background, because I work in the newsroom, and because gaming's so massive with young people and obviously adults as well. It's been something that's been on our radar because we know that the gaming industry is a lot bigger now than the movie industry in terms of money and in terms of what it generates and in terms of the eyes on it. And I just don't really understand, for me, any excuses really from these big tech companies and these big computer companies and these software companies that create these games, or whoever it is. I'm not savvy. I just think that, is there a case of them saying, well, who cares anyway, because we know that there's going to be millions of people that will buy this no matter whether it's accessible or not?
I think that it is something that happens, and I think it's ridiculously short-sighted economically when you remember that in the UK, the purple pound, the disposable income of the disabled community, is in the region of 270 billion.
Yeah.
And that's sterling. And globally, we're talking 13 trillion US dollars. I get annoyed when they say, oh, we're going to patch it in later, which is something we're going to come on to. Because then, well, can I pay for it later? It almost feels like it's an afterthought or a bolt-on, where it needs to be something that's just baked into the ecosystem.
How much more does it cost, right? This isn't an excuse. This is my next natural question towards it, because you're absolutely right. Why wouldn't these big companies want to get involved with that kind of money, that trillions? But how much more does it cost for these companies to put, certain scripts in, or size of things, or like in terms of sensory stuff, or this.
Well, that's the thing about Starfield, and this is what Simon brought up actually, that I had never noticed. You press a certain button on Starfield, and all the items that you can interact with glow, and it shows you a path of where you can go. So they've got the access. You can't shoot or do anything, but you can turn into this zone thing. So they had this accessibility that people could have used, but they didn't use it. Bonkers. I didn't even realize it was Simon who brought it up and said, you've got all this. Why didn't you use it?
Yeah.
There's a really famous legal case with Domino's Pizza. There was a partially sighted customer who just wanted them to update their website so it could use existing screen reading technology.
Yeah.
And doing it would have future-proofed their website, and I think it would have cost them around $20,000. And they said, yeah, we're not doing it. And he sued them for $12 million.
The difference.
So not doing it is way more expensive.
This is well outside my wheelhouse. I just don't get the gaming industry. I'm not across at all.
I've just finished watching series 4, the final season of Sex Education on Netflix. And they had a particular episode on there which really focused on ableism. I mean, it's actually a show that I've been pleasantly surprised by. It's not normally the kind of thing I'd choose to watch, but it's got a really cool way of sort of reflecting inclusivity and what we want to be as a society kind of thing. But what really got me was that it was the lift in the school just wouldn't work, kept breaking, and they weren't replacing it. The guy who is the sort of main wheelchair user focus of it's really his episode, I guess. But he's like, it's ridiculous. We can afford a well-being pool, but we can't fix a freaking elevator that means I can get to go and do my exam. Turns into this thing, I won't say anymore because I don't want to do spoilers and stuff like that, but we need to do better as a society to be inclusive. It's these things. It's this belligerence that follows with, like you say, with Domino's, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to spend 20K. Well, you'd have future-proofed your website, and I guarantee they've lost a lot of customers because people are going, well, screw you if you can't be bothered to do that. But take it aside from that, well, how about we just start focusing on doing what's right, not what's always going to make the most money? The movie industry, the shopping industry, the workplaces, whatever, would be improved unbelievably. But we've got to get past this mindset of, it's not going to please our investors kind of thing. I think it's just sickening.
It's just not going to happen, is it? The only thing that can happen is to hurt them where it hurts most, which is them making money. So the public outcry on Twitter and Insta and everything else, where the public perception of the company or a share that they own in it suddenly starts getting battered, that's when it starts to hurt. So I don't think appealing to their morality is going to work, because they have none. And where it hurts, that's when they start making changes.
So we move on from Bethesda and Starfield to Insomniac and Spider-Man 2. This is due out November. It's boasted a very large suite of accessibility features, but it's also been revealed that not all of them will be available day one, and it could take up to a month for everything to be patched in. Is this okay? Is this better? Chris, where do you stand on Insomniacs?
It's a bit of a funny one, because I think if it was just out on its own and there was no Starfield and they announced this, I'd be quite annoyed. And similar to what you said earlier of, can I pay later then? Starfield have done this, and now they're doing this and adding it later. It's a much softer blow. Basically, what would you rather have, a punch in the face or a slap?
Yeah.
Because you've had that punch, the slap doesn't seem so bad anymore, does it? So they've kind of gotten away because someone's done so much worse previously. It's not right by any means, but the fact is that it's a softer blow because someone's done it worse.
Do you think it was intentional when they realised what a shit show the Starfield accessibility was? They were like, if we mention this now...
If you think about what the politicians do, is they dangle this carrot, but then in the background there's something else always happening. I think that's exactly what's happened. I think when you look at these big companies, these big businesses, and even doubting the fact that that's not how they think is like madness, because they, I believe that if you become that big, then that's just my journalistic side coming in. I always think there's a corrupt side to people that are mega successful in business. I don't think you can ever get to that higher status without cracking a few eggs that you shouldn't have. I think that these people, they don't think the way that Duncan was just mentioning then about doing the right thing, or it's always about weathering the storm. Anybody that's in charge of you know, whether it's making money or whether it's running a country or anything like that.
I don't think it needs to be about gaming. This could be a hotel that has an accessible to get to the room.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I've been doing a course on peer support, and we were talking about the sort of safeguarding aspects at the last session I was on. And this chap who he's a youth worker, and he was saying that he has this thing, like, if it doesn't feel right, he'll push to go on. Like, you know, if there's red flags going up for him and he passes it on and then nothing's done, if he still feels that there's something there that needs to be investigated further, he will push for it. And we came to this point, it was like, you've got to be able to go to bed at night and sleep knowing you've done everything you can to do what's right. And that's what's missing. People are much happier to let the money rule their lives than they are to see the right thing done.
So it can be done, like, you know, punch, slap, or a hug. Oh my word, NetherRealm and a new Mortal Kombat, just all there, word go. I was stunned because I installed the game, I loaded it up, and instantly screen reading started happening. And I was like, oh, this is different. I've got to turn this off rather than struggling to turn it on. Good for you. Good for all of you. And I can't praise how much NetherRealm and Warner Brothers, developer publisher, have nailed the accessibility in MK1. It's a great game as well. Don't mishear me. I don't want loads of accessible games that are steaming turds. But I'm so happy with MK1 and its accessibility, particularly against the backdrop of Bethesda and, to a lesser degree, Insomniac.
I might be butchering this story a little bit, but how it came about with NetherRealm is that basically NetherRealm had gone to an event. There was an individual, I can't remember his name, I will find out who it is, but basically he kind of worked on this sort of stuff, you know, accessibility in games. The two of them got talking, and basically NetherRealm brought him on board, and he consulted for the entire game to make it fully accessible. So that's how it came about. They've also given him a shout out in the game as well, as a big thank you. Exactly right. It can be done. That's all it took, was just bringing someone who knew what they were doing, who knew what the community needed to play the game, and listened and implemented what they needed. So yeah, exactly right. Can be done.
So there we go. If you're watching this and you're a game developer, or any other business for that matter, and you're even a little bit unsure about your access, hire disabled people, hire access consultants. If you do hire an access consultant, for the love of God, make sure they're disabled, because otherwise, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get it wrong. That's not me hating, that's just as someone who knows and who's had the conversation multiple times with multiple companies. I'm saving you a lot of time and money. I briefly want to touch on something that Duncan said earlier, that together we can do better. That slogan has been bounded around a lot recently by the Conservative Party in their new online campaign, Ask, Don't Assume. I'm going to go to our journalists first to get all the heavy lifting and the heavy ranting out of the way.
Well, I came across this last week when it got launched. The first day, I kind of let it breathe a little bit, because I thought to myself, I could see on launch day, like, we saw a lot of the people that were poster advocates at Expo. They were like the poster people for this. It's basically telling people to ask questions of each other when it comes to the subject of disability. Now, my interpretation of that was quite a positive one. So I thought, well, this is good. In my opinion, as a disabled person, when people go, how come you're in a wheelchair? Right, that's not always the way that they ask it, but that's how it gets translated in my head.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm happy to answer questions, and I'm happy to talk to people about my disability and all that, because in my opinion, it's always been about, if people are educated, then we'll become a better society, and you can only educate people by sharing your own story. What I discovered the day after was that wasn't everybody's interpretation of it, and like, to ask it's a problem, to assume it's a problem, to breathe it's a problem, to say disability is a problem. And the thing that I find so unbelievable about it all is it's the disability community on X themselves, ourselves, us, who seem to like have the biggest problem with it, which A, I understand, right? I do get that, but B is like, you can't win, right? So this is what I got from it. is that the people who want you to assume, don't assume too much though, but you can ask, but I'll be upset, right? And the people that want you to ask is, don't ask too much, but don't assume either. But what I will say, this is my final part on it, right? My final part on it is that not a great campaign. It's not strong. Like, they spend so much money on this that they've done nothing for disability, the Tory party, since they've got into power. They've done absolutely nothing but slowly but surely decimate it, right? And slowly but surely segregate disabled people from the rest of society, right? So if they wanted to do something positive, surely if they're going to invest all this money into a campaign, somebody should have said, do you not think the ask assume thing's quite divisive? And it could cause a little bit of problems because people have got conflicting opinions about their disability, or people like things a certain way.
I think it just wasn't clear.
It doesn't matter whether it was clear or not to them. What mattered is that they were shown to be doing a campaign. But on the other side, the other conflict, this is my final part, the other conflicting part of my brain said, at least it's something. And it's a positive campaign that was maybe or maybe not. My interpretation is that it was designed to get us all talking and to allow people the freedom to ask questions, who look at the campaign, who maybe don't have a lived experience with disability, to think, oh, maybe I can ask.
If you knew nothing about the disabled community and you were on Twitter and then you saw this campaign and then you saw all of this outcry, anger, burning hatred and all of them assuming they knew what this poster meant, because there was a few who didn't even read the backstory of how it came about. If someone comes up and asks me to do this or do that, then I'm going to tell, and people, that's not what it means. If you knew nothing about the disability community and you wanted to find out, there is no way you'd walk into a lion's den.
We did the trans episode where we were talking to people from that community and the LGBTQ plus community. And we said it's because often we've got questions. We want to be better people and we want to do better things and be more accepting and more understanding. But I get scared to ask the question because you get labeled as being phobic of whatever particular part of that community is by a certain section of that community. And that's what that's the thing to remember. Having, Rico and Julia on that episode and being able to talk and ask open questions and have them answer in a really calm and thought through manner made such a difference. And I think you're right. I think this whole campaign comes from this idea of wanting to get people talking about it. But I think it comes back to what Adam was saying, get a consultant in. For goodness sake, make sure they're actually disabled so that...
Actually, I think they did, Duncan.
They all were. They got
like a whole bunch of people from the disability community. It was driven by disabled people. It's the thing, right?
I'm just going to shut up because I'm making an idiot of myself.
No, you're not.
That's a normal reaction, isn't it? That's how someone would react if they didn't realise. But when you go on Twitter and there's all these groups and, their forte is to get angry at whatever they can find, any slight, anything they can twist where it seems like a slight. I want likes and views. I want retweets. I want interaction. And it really, really, really annoys me because that's not advocating. That's driving a wedge for the sake of anger.
Thank you. There are so many people who are like going, no, I don't give you permission to ask me about my disability. And I'm like, well, unless it's on the fucking telly, right? Then you're there. Like, when I was when I just left home and I was working and I was on a lunch break with a mate and we were sitting there and this guy came up to me and he goes, "Oh, hey Duncan, how you doing?" And I didn't recognise him. And it turns out he was a guy who used to live up the road from me when I lived with my parents. And he'd had a big full beard at that point, and then he'd shaved it, so I didn't recognise him. And I was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I never liked him anyway," kind of thing. He said, "Oh, you put on some weight, haven't you?" And I said, "Shaving your beard's really showing what a big mouth you have."
That is a good response.
Assume they can say too much. That's it. To ask, don't assume is a really cool thing in a way.
Not the way, but also when, where, why.
That's it.
If you're asking me in a pub out of some drunken vaudevillian spectacle, fuck right off. If you're trying to have a genuine conversation with me to understand disability more so you can make the world a better place, I'll have that chat all day long.
And my question always is to us within the disabled community is like, when are we going to turn around and have a look at ourselves instead of finger pointing all the time towards campaigns and finger pointing towards slogans that you don't like, or something about a fucking blue badge, or something about a disabled toilet. Like, when does it get to the point where us as the disabled community come together and decide, do you know what, we've had enough, we need to change the stereotypes, and we need to change these conversations, and we need to change things for the positive, not because we're expecting the government to do it, not because we're expecting the people that are able-bodied to do it, but actually, when does it get to the point where we do it for ourselves? When does it get to that point? When do we look at ourselves at all? We don't. We just want everybody else to change and we stay the same, right? And that is not how the world works.
But the problem that we've got, and I think this is why we end up with this little Twitter X situation that is there. I see it with the Send parenting community a lot, is that you start when everyone starts on this, you know, like they become disabled, or they discover they've got a loved one who's disabled or has a hidden disability, that they start the process. They're looking to see what they can do and be supportive. You've got three types of people in this world, and it's the fight, flight, or freeze. But after the diagnostic process of any of this stuff, after all the hospital visits, after trying to fight for your kids' rights at school, after trying to fight for all this, that, rest, you've either flown, frozen, or you're a fighter. And at that point, it's only the fighters that are left in the picture. And so all the people are these people who are just fighting because they're so frustrated and angry from this long history. The people who we need to be vocal as well and just be open about their situation. And are the people they're frozen or they've flown.
And then you've got people who will take things by the scruff of the neck, and they will make calls that isn't recorded or put on social media. You know, behind closed doors, they're fighting for a reason that they want to resolve. It's not just for that false reason where everybody sees I'm doing this and I've said this. And that, it really sickens me, because you can see that it's so fake. And there's so many of them as well, all climbing over top of each other. And once they start doing that, stories start to get embellished. They realize that they're lying and they're embellishing the truth, but they need to top it up from the last person so they can get the interactions.
I'm going to politely ask that you fuck off, and then assume that I hopefully never see you again.
It feels good, doesn't it?
Excuse me.
Fucking do what?
I don't have the time or the crayons to unpack any of this for you. So just have fun with your nonsense and go home. Like, people.
I've got some crayons, Adam, if you need some. I can use some crayons if you need them, pal. Trust me.
The Tory party are back in this. So for us to disagree takes something. Because the fact that we're kind of on the side of them, of what they've done, well, not really on the side, but not belittling them as people have done, takes a lot. So
I think it's just because we're so used to getting shit. Take any kind of crumb that they'll give us. Do you know what I mean? We've been starved for so long that if they give you a crumb, we'll fucking eat it all.
We're going to hand over now to us in the past. We're interviewed Beverley Walters from the TES Show. Myself, Martin, and Duncan will be there speaking. Chris won't, because he hates disabled people. Off with the interview in 3, 2, 1.
Thanks, Adam. I'm here with Martin and, of course, the fantastic Beverley Walters from the TES Send Show. Beverley, how are you doing today?
Well, it's been an absolutely stressful couple of weeks running up to the show, but I'm absolutely loving it. There's so much that's coming up, so much exciting content, and activity on the exhibition floor is just going to be amazing. So I'm rushed off my feet, but wanted to come in and say hi to you guys.
If I'm someone who's coming to this show, right, and I wanted to pick out one thing, what would be the number one thing that you would tell me about to get me excited about the show?
That's like asking me to pick my favourite child. Of course, I've got to mention the Parent Carer Teacher Forum and the amazing, Duncan Casban that's going to be chairing the forum, and yourself, Martin, and Adam as well. It's going to be a really exciting session. And we've got the IATA, I think it is, that are going to be doing a talk with Duncan and yourselves about physical activity and sport in SEND, because it's the kind of thing that mainstream schools probably wouldn't talk about and wouldn't want to get into, because they think the perception is that we're not doing enough, so they tend not to address it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that's going to pan out on the Saturday morning. We've also got the fantastic Tracy Pacquiao-Malloway, who's coming all the way over from Florida, who's going to do some talks on working memory. And Tracy is so inspirational, and she's going to be doing that. I'm going to be chairing that session, and we're going to have Marie Gentles in there as well. So that session is going to be really good on Saturday morning, and these sessions are free. So the keynote on the Saturday morning is free. The Parent Carer Teacher Forum is free. We have the keynote on the Friday morning. You want me to go on? There's still so much more. There's the poetry competition with Michael Rosen.
Just speak to us a little bit about, what the poetry competition is.
Poetry competition we introduced a couple of years ago because I've always wanted to make sure that children and young people have a voice of their own. The narrative was changed by the Olympics. The whole nation got an interest in Paralympics and in special needs. And I just wanted the opportunity for children to be able to say, to change the narrative for themselves, to build it for their generation, to talk about what special needs means to them. So we introduced the poetry competition as a vehicle for schools to talk to children about special needs and to get whole schools talking about it, rather than just talking about special needs when little Jimmy has to leave the classroom for extra support, but talking about it positively and acknowledging the needs of all children. The first year turned into a competition where people were just crying out for help. People were talking about how they felt, how being in the classroom with other kids makes them feel, how being in the playground makes them feel. And it was really, really quite sad to hear that these children didn't really have another outlet, or an outlet that they felt share their stories with. But they did, quite honestly and openly, with a poetry competition. And 9 times out of 10, all of those poems that may have started negatively ended up being positive. So they were able to talk about their needs, the needs of those around them. So the child might not have had special needs themselves, but we were just asking them to talk about their understanding of special needs. So the children themselves were picking out the unique points and the special skills that those children had and how wonderful they were. And that's what excited me. That's what really got me into the poetry competition and made me realise just how much work it was doing.
I obviously got involved with the TES Send Show last year, and that was my first year being involved. And I'm so happy you're going back to
and
it.
you're now stuck doing it for the rest of your life, Duncan.
Yeah, that's right.
We're not letting you go.
Yeah, you might have to talk to my wife now. I had such a positive time there. And I think the unique thing about this, above anything else, is that its origins were based in educators wanting to do more to support SEND kids, and realizing that there was nothing out there doing it, so they did it themselves. And what you talk about with the poetry competition there, it's bringing in something we're big on with the Grumpy Gits in particular, is this idea that don't talk over a community, give them a voice. You made me think of Eva Abley, who's a friend of the show. She's been on a couple of times. But that whole thing of, you were saying about the struggles in the playground and that sort of stuff, and that's what she was experiencing. She talks about it quite openly. Comedy was a reason that people had to stop and listen and get past the fact that her speech is a bit slower. And it's just remarkable. So again, it's giving that voice. I think it's brilliant. We
will always try and accommodate the needs of everybody that's sending in a poem. And Michael Rosen is absolutely brilliant he will read them in character, which resonates with me, because I remember when I was reading poems to my son when he was little, or the Mr. Men books, I would read them in voices or in little characters. And Michael does that with the children. And he really brings their poems to life. I mean, even whether they've won or not, it's always nice to hear Michael Rosen reading your poem with the expressive language that he has and the way that he communicates to the young people, autographing books and talking to the public. And he's also delivering a poetry workshop on the Saturday as well. And that's free of charge for anybody that wants to come along.
Good news is we will be talking to Michael at the show on the Grumpy Gits as well. We've got
yes.
What's particularly for you is going to be special about the Parent Carer Teacher Forum this year?
We've got a brilliant story from Sarah Jane Critchley and her daughter Beth. Sarah Jane's been working on the Parent Carer Teacher Forum for a number of years and had developed her own business because of the work that she was doing. She formerly worked for Autism Education Trust, so she has a long history. In the summer holidays, I noticed that because she's a friend of mine. Sarah Jane's feed was on Facebook and her daughter's graduation pictures came up. And I thought, how brilliant, Beth's graduated. Because for years I've known Sarah Jane and she's talked about preparing Beth for independence, preparing her for university. So I've invited them both to come along to the Parent Carer Teacher Forum to talk about how all the preparations that Sarah Jane's been putting in for years, whether she actually got it right, what worked, what didn't. But then also Beth's going to come and talk to us to tell us from her experience what worked and what didn't. For the Parent Carer Teacher Forum, there's a number of other sessions that are taking place. Within the show, we've also got the Leadership Summit, and we've got the Association of School and College Leaders who we're working in partnership with to deliver the Leadership Summit. And the Leadership Summit came about because, again, we were listening to our audience who were telling us, it's great that you've got the show for us. We're learning practical lessons, how to interact with, how to involve, how to, not alienate children in our classrooms. But those that are in charge within schools and education settings, they need to understand the issues that we're dealing with, how we're coping. And we were getting this quite a lot. So we put on a leadership conference to give leaders the space and the time to network, to talk about the strategic issues that they need to put in place to make sure that schools are inclusive places to work for the children and their staff as well. When you walk into the building, there'll be 2 theatres of presentations where people are talking about all the exciting resources and information that's available to teaching professionals, to parents and carers, to help in your day-to-day work, in your day-to-day struggles with whatever issues that you have. I'm going to issue a challenge to the audience now. If you come along to the show and you're looking for something that you don't find, please come and tell us, because we'd really like to know for next year where we need to focus our attention. What are we missing? We're always looking to learn about how we can improve the show, how we can develop it. This year it's going to be jam-packed, and we hope that you're going to get something from it, something positive.
And if you've got any other things you want to put on there, chuck them in the comments as well. We'll make sure they all get through to Beverley.
When you've had these test shows, what's been the sort of feedback from people on the ground afterwards? Because they must learn a lot in these shows and take a lot away. What's the feedback like when the show's ended and everyone's away back to doing what they have to do to make the world a better place?
Well, I always know an event has gone well when the only thing they complain about is the catering. The feedback that I'm particularly interested in is, what is it that people want to listen to next year? What are the topics? What are the issues? As well, we get lots of anecdotal feedback about the sector, about what's happening in people's schools. People absolutely love to come and network. They like to come and talk to other professionals in a similar setting. One of our main targets is for Senkos and head teachers. And often in a school, they're the only member of staff at that level with that role. I mean, you've got these big MATs now, or multi-academy trusts, that have got Senkos and deputy Senkos, but essentially there is one person in that role. So to come along to a show and meet 3,000 other Senkos is just amazing, because you can talk to the speakers in the sessions and talk about your situation or your setting, and then find that 5 other people in the room have had the same situation, and then they meet for coffee and go and talk about it. If you're in a seminar, please put your hand up, ask questions, talk to the speakers. And after the session as well, there's always a short period of time where you can go and talk to each of the speakers. Most of them will give you their contact details and come and talk to you afterwards, or contact you afterwards. So yeah, it's the seminar sessions, the exhibition floor as well. The range of exhibitors that we have, people often say, is absolutely brilliant.
The money thing as well, isn't it? Like, for a lot of these Senkos and a lot of these schools, and a lot of where the money gets distributed and where it goes. Because as far as my understanding is, it's, even though you can apply for money in terms of for the purposes to help kids with special educational needs, you don't have to spend it on that. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or they're very kind of loose on where they have to put the money. So these schools can get that money, then they can put it towards something else that they think is more important. Am I right?
Years and years and years ago, the SEN funding would be ring fenced, and it hasn't been ring fenced for so long.
I know. Do you know why? Do you know why it's not been ring fenced?
I don't. Maybe that's a question we need to ask the DFE.
I think it is, because there's another side to that, which is that it's something I only discovered this year. When people are applying for EHCPs, when schools put them forward, they're responsible for the first £6,000 to be covered by any EHCP.
Yeah.
What people are struggling so much to get EHCPs put through, because the schools just can't afford it. But then you hear about these amounts of money that aren't being ring fenced and are being used somewhere else, and it raises a lot of questions.
I've heard of schools where there's a group of young girls who were always really quite energetic in lessons, and that were identified as having ADHD. And the school were really, really struggling to try and keep those young ladies focused in their lessons. So somebody came up with the idea of using some funding from school to pay for a gym membership that these girls went to before school. So from 7 a.m. in the morning, they would go to the gym, they would burn off energy, it would keep them fit and well, and help them to focus when they got into school.
It's that thing of inclusion, and I know there's a loose sort of theme over this one, because it's something that's so prevalent in society at the moment, and a lot of TV's focusing on it and stuff like that. I literally just finished watching the Wrexham episode, which focused on autism. Inclusion's a big thing, but it's how is it practically, and what does inclusion really look like?
My girlfriend was asking as a teacher is because she's never been to the TES show. So as a teacher, as an educator, as someone who really kind of struggles with the SEN aspect, because in her world at the moment, sometimes she can have 5 SEN kids in her class and 1 Senko for the whole school. And what it seems like is that it seems like there's a real sort of gap between kids that have been diagnosed with certain things they don't know, so they don't have the medication, and by the time they get it, it's all gone. I mean, I suppose her question is like, why would an educator want to go to something like this when they feel like the money's not there and all that kind of stuff? What would you say to any teachers or any educators out there who are really feeling like, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? What is the actual point? Because I might be able to meet somebody in my position, but is it going to change my world in terms of what's going on in my school with SEN?
I think it comes back to that networking opportunity. So you might meet somebody and talk to someone who has a different need for being there than you do, but you can then learn a little bit from them. And it might be that you stay in touch with those networks. I mean, the reason I got involved with TES SEND Show was when I was working for Nason. And Nason used to have regional offices, membership offices. So locally you could meet up. So the opportunity is for people to develop those networks themselves, but also to go along to those sessions that they think might be of interest to them further down the line, and to know where to get that information from when they need it. There are a number of organisations that will be at the show who be great sources of information. So your girlfriend, your partner might, the week before, find out that she's got a child coming into a classroom next week that has special needs. And then it's like, how do I find out about hearing impairment? Who do I talk to? Having the networks that derive from contacts, communications at the show, exhibitors that you might meet, sessions that you might go to, that's when that sort of pays off. We've got Duncan there who can always empathise and share his experiences. And it's really great that people like Duncan are out there who are willing to talk about their experiences and the support and the advocacy that they give. I think we need as many different people from different backgrounds with different experiences, sharing those experiences and educating everybody around them. There is no one silver bullet, there is no one solution, but TES SEND Show is a great way to start. It's a great way to experience or to just get your first knowledge and understanding about different issues.
We will put links in the description so you can sign up to get to the event and find out all the details. It's in a couple of weeks' time, so check that out now. We'll put the details on screen as well. Beverley, I can't thank you enough for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me. I'm always really nervous about coming on to talk about the show, but you always put me at my ease, and I always have a great time and go off in tangents that weren't planned, which is what we've done today.
We love our tangents on this show.
We live for the tangents. It's fine. We live for those.
Tangents are so much more interesting.
Yes, well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. We will hand back over to Adam and the rest of us back on the main podcast.
And there we go. That was Beverley Walters in the TES show. Correction, Chris doesn't hate disabled people. He hates me. I just assumed he hated all disabled people, and I should have asked. Grr, Tory. So yeah, sorry, Chris. I've corrected that. Happy days. On that fantastic note, that brings us to the end of another fantastic show. As always, gentlemen, been an absolute pleasure. Chris Lee Smith, if people want to follow you on Twitter, find out more about you, how can they do so?
At The Real Granddad on any platform.
Mr. Duncan Casburn, where can people find out your happenstance and whataboutery?
Same PDA Dad UK on pretty much any platform. I haven't been on Twitter or X thing much because I just find it annoying now, but I will pick up messages and stuff like that, so please do reach out.
And Mr. Martin Dugan, where can your good people find you?
They can find me at Marty Dugan 2012 on X, and if they want to come on Instagram, it's Martin Dugan 11.
And you can find me at Adam_Pearson on X and Adam_Pearson_TV on Instagram. I'm not verified on either. I miss the good old days when verified meant you're who you said you were, whereas now it's just a shorthand for dickhead. This has been the Grumpy Gits. Love you, take care, like, comment, subscribe, get in touch, and most importantly, don't be grumpy alone. Mwah.